And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the very latest Nissan Juke. The new Nissan Juke is a little bit less controversial than the previous model. It looks a little bit less like a bug-eyed frog. Instead, they've got these quite smart headlights that are automatic LED with auto high beam. We've got some smart LED running lights that come on during the day. Now, the previous model looked really awkward. The front, this is all new, remember, this model's bigger than the old model. There's a camera just here for part of your 360-degree reversing camera, and there's also radars at the front for the radar guided cruise control. But one thing it has got is the same coupe styling that the previous model had. Now remember, as I said, this car is bigger than the previous model. As it slopes down towards the back, we've got a couple of concealed rear door handles, very important for people that like concealed rear door handles, and this black trim here makes it look like the roof is floating, though on this dark model that's a little bit lost. It doesn't quite have the same effect. Below we have these brilliant 19-inch wheels. Of course, the rear also has a little reversing camera and a quite easy to open rear hatch. Of course, this is a manual affair, this tailgate, which is absolutely fine by me. There's a hard cover to cover up your gear that's in the back. You can also use that as a parcel shelf. Inside, the seats go down 60-40 split. It's not quite flat, but it's still near enough. And most important, there is a space saver spare. So none of that nasty tyre repair kit. I really hate those with a passion. Let's have a look inside. The 180 Newton meter, 84 kilowatt engine has just 3 cylinders, just 3. But the turbo makes quite good power from fairly low down. Normally it's a little bit smoother than that, but this bridge was built in the year 1242. God almighty. And don't very often meet a car coming around there, thank you. And the transmission is a 7-speed double clutch type, so like you get in Porsche and Volkswagen, all of the expensive cars. Handling on this top model is brilliant. Brilliant. Considerably better than the model it replaced. There's drive modes too down here on the center console. And up here we've got, on the center stack, some nice neat buttons and controls. This 8-inch touchscreen also has built-in satellite navigation. Very handy if you happen to want to use your phone for something else. But what you find is that you will want to put your phone in and use Siri. Siri will be able to do all of your normal chores while you're in cell range, completely hands-free. The suspension is incredibly smooth, again, much better than the model it replaced. There's McPherson struts at the front and a torsion beam type setup at the rear. It does make things a little bit more lively than you might otherwise like, but it's still enjoyable. So you can see the twists and turns are handled really well. This car's deliciously light. The steering is really quite good. It is electric, of course. Then we come to the safety systems. There are safety systems built in. There's smart lane trace and there's blind spot monitor. And there's autonomous emergency braking, and it will even recognise cyclists. The rear view camera is 360 degrees. As I said outside, there's cameras all around the car, so it makes the car fun to drive, but it also makes it very useful. And the other good thing is, because there's 422 litres of luggage space, there is enough room for quite a lot of bags. That expands quite substantially when you put the seats down flat, of course. Fuel consumption is a rather respectable 5.8 litres per 100 kilometres. CO2 is 136 grams per kilometre, and the fuel tank will hold 46 litres. And of course, on the highway, you'll really appreciate things like the smart cruise control. So if I just press the cruise control button and set it, the car is now doing everything itself. Although I'm not actually going at high speed at the moment, we're only doing 80. But the car in the front slowed down, so we slowed down a little bit too. Some of the things displayed up here on the driver's display are speed recognition, so this sign will flash and it makes sure that I don't miss it. It does get a little bit annoying on the highway though if it's not read the sign correctly. The other thing is that it does have a digital speedo. And the digital speedo, once you've had, is impossible to live without. It is really precise compared to the normal needles and dials. I really love the interior. I love what they've done. Because this is the top model, it's got a little bit of Alcantara up here on the dash. The seats are a mixture of real and fake leather and Alcantara. And there's hard touch points, still look soft, although that is pretty hard. Down here we've got single zone climate control, but it is proper climate control. And these aircraft style vents, which I really like. Eyeball vents mean you can put the air anywhere you want it. I've just switched on my auto hold, which means that I can take my foot off the brake while I'm stopped at lights, and the car will hold that particular spot for me until I give it a little tiny tap on the accelerator, and off we go. The other thing, of course, that it did then was the stop-start stopped, which meant the engine switches off, and I save lots of CO2. The really clever thing is when you do stop the engine at a set of traffic lights, a little timer comes up on the dashboard and tells me how much CO2 I've saved. And so far, in the last week, it's been about 6 kilos. Now, if you think if every car in the world did that and saved 6 kilos of CO2 in a week, how many thousands of tons of CO2 is that we haven't put in the atmosphere? Despite these really big wheels, there's not a lot of road noise unless you get on that awful chip tarmac. At 36,000 and some change, this is not exactly a cheap car, but nor is it expensive. And I think this is the sort of thing that you would go to, especially if you wanted a second car that had a little bit of extra ground clearance. That's it, that's all this week for Nissan's Juke. I really like it. It's such a quantum leap over the previous model. I'd buy this with my own money, and I think for $36,490 it's good value. As always, if you've liked the film, hit like, leave a comment, and just there to subscribe.